The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
The Dallas Cowboys select Michael Parsons! Woo!
And now, your hosts, Brian Broaddus, Jeff Kavanaugh, Kyle Yeomans, and David Hellman.
It is Thursday, March the 24th, 2022. It's time for another episode of the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. I think the next time we talk to y'all, it'll be inside of a month until the 2022 NFL Draft.
Oof.
Wild how that happens.
Coming up.
Get your draft prep in order.
35 days from now. So, yeah, you're exactly right.
We start watching these guys.
I was going to say, it's crunch time.
When's Dane's book come out?
What's that?
When's Dane's book come out?
Dude, I need Dane's book.
Look those guys up.
He said first week of April is when he said at the Combine. So
I can tell you everything you need to know about, like, the first 120 guys, but, like, the round 6, round 7. Dane Brugler, I need your book, please. Listen, we are a user-driven show, a listener-driven show. That's the goal anyway. So I had a fun idea for a first segment planned out. I hope we have time for it later on in the show. But I'm just going to give the people what they want, guys. Jeff Kavanaugh, Brian Broaddus, Kyle Yeomans. Forgot about that.
Is it Sky Moore?
No, it's not Sky Moore.
Sky Moore!
He got that out of the way.
He's going to go to the Chiefs or the Packers.
I hate it a lot.
He's going to have a 1,000-yard rookie year.
No, we're going to talk about the opposite of Sky Moore, a guy from a big school who plays on defense who we have been hearing everything about. In case you live under a rock, the Cowboys were in Oxford, Mississippi for Ole Miss's Pro Day yesterday. And guys, I just can't stop fielding questions about Sam Williams, and I think it's enough. Like, it's one thing when coaches and scouts show up to a pro day; that's what they're supposed to do. But Dan Quinn leads the Ole Miss edge rusher in positional drills at his pro day. He goes to talk to the media, brings his son along, and talks about how they've been all over him, about how he's talked to Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones thinks he could help Micah Parsons. So I get it. I get the curiosity about this guy, and so I'd like to lead the show off with a conversation about Sam Williams. What do you know? What do you think?
He ain't bad. He ran a 4.46, so
there we go.
Being 260 pounds and running in the 4.4s is pretty good. And you can watch him play against Charles Cross, which I did, against Mississippi State, and Sam Williams beats him a few times.
Sure does.
Like, he's a fast guy who has, I would say, flashes of power, but consistent tenacity. So he beat Charles Cross inside. He straight-armed him and walked him back to the quarterback. I don't think he's necessarily like a nuanced rusher. I think he can get better in terms of hand usage and consistent pad level, and I don't think he's a bendy guy. Like, a lot of times when he tries to win outside, he runs himself out of the play, and he just runs behind the quarterback. But he's a fast, big man with a good get-off, and being fast with a good get-off also means you can win inside. He's just not very bendy. So Sam Williams, to me, is probably a top 60 to 70 player in this draft. And I'm glad I saw so many Cowboy things about him because I hadn't even seen him yet. Because I hadn't seen him ranked highly by other people, so I hadn't gotten to him yet. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
We've heard the name on and off, but yeah, I mean, nothing will kick that conversation into overdrive like hearing and seeing that level of interest from the team. Brian, what do you think?
No, I tell you what, this guy makes a ton of plays from the backside, and you could watch, if you watch the Liberty game, is a really good example of this, when Willis is trying to go forward in the pocket, and he comes around behind him, and there's some indecision in that pocket, and then, boom, you got a guy that's closing. I think Jeff's got the player right. I did see a little bit more power in that Auburn game. There were some times where like they were trying to run the ball at him, and he stoned the tackle, got rid of him, and then made a tackle for loss right there. I thought was because I was interested in how much power the guy could really play with. I always say this about a guy. I mean, when especially a guy that gives great effort, this guy doesn't give up on plays. I mean, when you could see whether it's the Auburn game, A&M Liberty games, the games I watched. I mean, you could see him just constantly trying to get to the ball. And I think that's something as a defensive end, you could appreciate about him. So I think there is a little bit of an element of the slipperiness to his game. Jeff's right. I don't think he's super bendy, but I think there's some things where you could see him dip his shoulder and get underneath the tackle and then kind of redirect to the ball. So I could see why the Cowboys like him. I could see why Dan Quinn went and worked him out.
And it's funny because going back to Mobile, he was not on the initial Senior Bowl roster. He was a late addition after somebody ended up leaving. It might have been Jermaine Johnson, but I think he was there even before that. But he comes out and he's in this white helmet. He's not even in the Ole Miss helmet. Yeah. It's just a plain white Riddell helmet. And he's running. He's got the number 7. There's not even a name on the back of his jersey. And I was sitting around a group of guys, and we're all kind of looking down here at this edge rusher drill, and we're saying, who is that guy?
Yeah.
Who does that? Where did he come from? Because he's not on the roster. He doesn't have a helmet. Who is he? And ultimately, it ended up being Sam Williams. And the bendiness, like you said, it's not 100% there, Jeff, but I think he's got a little more bend than people give him credit for. And the athleticism, the strength are certainly where it needs to be. I kind of think he looks like a poor man's Randy Gregory, where the versatility is there and there's multiple things that he could do from an edge rusher standpoint.
Don't ever go to NFL.com.
Autoplay.
If you go to NFL.com, it's
Autoplay.
playing something automatically.
That's okay.
They got to get those. They
Son
got to
of
get
a
those
biscuit.
views.
I was going to try and just talk right through
I'm
it all the
against
way,
this league.
but it
I'm
stuck
under
there
protest.
for a while.
I thought you did an admirable job. For
Thanks,
whatever
man.
That's worth.
To be fair, people talk in my ear while I'm trying to broadcast
it's part
a lot,
of the job.
so it's part of what it goes. But, yeah, I think he's a good player, and I think if you had to comp him, he's a poor man's Randy Gregory.
I think I have two thoughts. One, we first talked about Sam Williams at the Combine when Dane was filling in for you two gentlemen who couldn't make the trip, which we all do our best. We all put effort into this. I think we would all agree we're not Dane Brugler. The man is a walking encyclopedia. So I went back and listened to his scouting report, so you don't have to if you don't want to. Was a basketball player in high school, came late to football, wound up having to go the JUCO route. There are off-field issues here, and I think that's probably why he's sort of been under the radar, especially for a position that gets as much publicity as edge rusher. He was suspended in the summer of 20, I believe, for a sexual battery charge in the Oxford area. It was dropped. I'm not going to get too into the weeds on it because I don't know a whole lot more. But I will say I'll try to take my words carefully, but the Cowboys have been willing to consider those guys. If you go back as recently as last year, Micah Parsons came with maturity and off-field questions of his own. Josh Ball is another one that we've talked about a lot. So I don't think that would scare them. I assume they're going to do their due diligence on it. But it's something to consider just when you're talking about the player, something to know. And then the other thing so this just reminds me of DeMarcus Lawrence a little bit, to be honest with you, in the sense that you're stuck in a spot where the premium edge rushers in a class probably won't be there for you at pick 24. That's not normal. And everything y'all are telling me is this sounds like a guy who can address that need later on in the draft. Hopefully he falls to you at 56.
I mean, they're probably going to get him around earlier than I would have him. I had him in the 3rd is where I had. And I think the one guy that the edge rusher, the premium edge rusher that you're talking about that they might have taken, blew out his Achilles. Ajobo.
David Ajabo, yeah.
Ajabo, yeah. I think that he would have – I think that's the one guy that might have slid to him, depending on what they think about Johnson from Florida State. But that was the one guy that everybody kind of thought might be a first-round guy that would get to Dallas at 24. Initially, it was about Walker from Georgia and then the workouts and stuff, and that's just not going to happen, I don't think.
You're seeing him go as early as top 5 now.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. He's a really good player. Yeah. He's a really good player, but I hope people just take the workout, take the tape. Tape's good. I don't know if it's top 5 good.
And I don't want to say I'm surprised by this because it's what we've been talking about this entire time. Of this is going to be an ice cream draft class, right?
Yep.
But I've been charting some of these mock drafts. Like literally yesterday, I just went and I compared Daniel Jeremiah's most recent mock to Mel Kiper's most recent mock to Dane's most recent mock.
What are you doing?
Oh yeah, why would I want to know?
CD, what are you doing?
Who?
So what are you, OCD?
Oh, I thought you were mad.
No, he does this every year.
Out.
Yeah.
He does this every year.
Pulling a Bobby Belt here. Just got to.
I think it's interesting to know how different people value each prospect.
Yeah.
And the variance is pretty nuts, honestly.
Yeah.
Number one, you're right about Trayvon Walker.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, though, like, does group speak take over after a certain point? Like, is
in this draft, I feel like it's stronger than it can or has been in the past.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, because it's so interchangeable, as soon as a group of people get enamored with a prospect, it's not unlikely that prospect jumps. I really think it's even more likely that you see that group speak coming to fruition.
It usually the big shift usually comes after the combine.
Yeah.
Because what happens is media scouts will throw their opinions out there early, like we have in January, February, and then all of a sudden the scouts will then have words with the media scouts, and the media scouts will realize, oh, I had that guy too high, or oh, I didn't have that guy enough or high enough. So that's where I think that if you look at what was said in February, March about these guys, early March, it's going to change after. Just check after the combine, because a lot of opinions about these players tend to change because the scouts then get with their buddies in the media and say, you got this guy wrong or you got him right.
Yep. Which Jermaine Johnson's another one, to be honest with you. DJ's got him going top 10. Yeah. Danny Kelly, another guy whose work I really admire from The Ringer, has him going 12th overall.
Sure.
And there's variance, but you see the valuation of that position specifically. That's what makes me wonder if
there's a couple of positions here that I think that we're all would be completely different on. And you mentioned the ice cream reference, and that's about if my ice cream flavor is different from yours for sure. And so I think if we put all our wide receivers in order, they would be completely different. I think if we put all our defensive ends, maybe with the exception of the top two, depending on if you like Hutchinson or Thibodeau, whoever you like. But other than that, behind those guys, I think it would be a completely mixed up order.
And Dallas has done their due diligence on a lot of those guys, too,
Sure.
that are behind that upper echelon because, they've met with guys like Drake Jackson, Nick Bonito, Williams, like we mentioned.
It might have had to pivot here since they lost Randy Gregory, by the way.
Sure.
That might have been the big pivot there because, all of a sudden, maybe you're not thinking about defensive end. Remember when we did the show here, I think it was last week or whenever, but when we all thought Randy was signing, we did when we eliminated these defensive ends.
Yep.
Now Dan Quinn's out working out potentially a second or third round defensive end with some little bit of baggage from Mississippi.
That's a really good point. I tend to think they might have done that anyway, but Jeff, you and I were talking about the defensive end rotation that's currently on this team on Tuesday, and I was like, yeah, I feel fine about that. Mm-hmm. I would love to be a fly on the wall for Dan Quinn. He's just like, I'm not fine with this at all. I don't feel good about this.
I think too is anytime you see Dan Quinn showing up at a pro day, that's a big stick in the room because what's happened is Dan Quinn came in and gave your defense, not only did he improve the scheme, he improved the accountability and he improved the player that's on the field. So Dan Quinn is going to have a lot of say in what happens on that defensive side of the ball. And so if he's working out a guy like Sam Williams and stuff like that, I think he's going to, if it comes down to what about this player? What about this player? Dan's going to walk in that room when we're all sitting there watching the War Room cam, and he's going to start pointing out guys that he's worked out. And this guy's going to work. So I would definitely keep an eye on the 30 visits, and I'd also keep an eye on where Dan Quinn's been working out people.
We've been getting a lot of questions about 30 visits. I know
got 4 of them.
A few have leaked out. We mentioned Traylon Burks, Leal out of Texas A&M is another one.
Olave from Ohio State.
Chris Olave, Ohio State.
And Green from Texas A&M. The 4 we know so far.
We're trickling.
Yeah,
we'll get some more. It's not April yet, which I feel like the Cowboys' timeline for the 30 visits is usually like first 2 weeks of April. I feel.
Yeah, they figured that out. They'll start putting their board together too here pretty soon. Once all the pro days get in the books, and then they'll schedule with Jerry and Steven how their schedule needs to be, and then they'll start on their process.
Given the Sam Williams focus, can I impose upon y'all? Give me your edge rushers that you're confident aren't going to be first round picks, but maybe that 35 to 88 sort of sweet spot, day 2 edge rushers that they might be curious about.
I heard a guy pronounce this name a little while ago, so I think I can say this right. Ebikadi at Penn State.
Katie would be good.
Because I think 5 of them are going to go in the first round. That's my guess.
Yeah.
At least. Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Walker, Karlaftis, Johnson. And then Ojabo,
Probably
who
in that
knows?
order, too.
And Ojabo, who knows? So then my next guys, my second round guys, Ebiketie at Penn State. My next one's Sam Williams.
Okay.
Wow.
Ahead of Boye Mafe, Nick Benito,
Interesting.
Enigbare at South Carolina, and Logan Hall at Houston.
You have him as an edge rusher, not a 3 technique?
Yeah, I mean
He might be right. Jeff might be right about
he's
that.
He's a
tweener.
I've gone
Put him
back
wherever
and
you
forth.
want.
I had him on both boards for a little bit.
Not to piss Jeff off, but going back to my mock draft chart, not an insignificant number of people mocking him into the first round, by the way.
Who's that?
Logan Hall.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that
No,
too.
he's not
been up there.
No. I mean, you would take Wyatt. the guy-
Absolutely not. No.
If I were to put Logan Hall with my D tackles, he would probably be D tackle number 4 behind Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Travis Jones. He'd probably be the 4th one.
By the way, they had their defensive line coach up in Storrs, Connecticut, working on Travis Jones stuff.
UConn?
Go Huskies.
Yeah.
I see you.
What do you got, Brian?
I tend to have Mafe as my second round guy. I was Johnson, Ojabo, and then Mafe. That's before the injury too. But I'm going to leave the kid at Michigan there. I think the Cowboys do the same thing. It's they'll say, well, let's give the players due. They did it with Jalen Smith. They'll probably have a second, maybe first round grade on him. They'll probably leave him there. But then I went with Williams, our Penn State guy. Then I went with South Carolina. And I don't really like Drake Jackson all that much. Myjai Sanders was down there too. And then Benito would be my last guy there in the third, is how I had that rated.
I'm higher on Myjai than I think everybody is. I don't know why. I could be completely wrong, but I like his strength. I like his potential as an athlete. I have him in that second round category. He's not above like a Boye Mafe or an Arnold Ebiketie, even Kingsley Enagbare from South Carolina. Those are the guys there. I want to hear you, if you guys have watched this guy, Cameron Thomas from San Diego State.
I have
him in the third, but he's kind of knocking on that door of maybe a second round potential. What do you like about him?
I'll tell you what, the thing about him is, and initially when you watched him play, I was just the motor on this guy. I mean, he never stops. And I was interested about him because I was kind of looking. He's 6'4", he's 267. He kind of fits that long, rangy profile. But this guy, I mean, when you watch him play, he has that ability to create turnovers. I mean, he's in the pocket, he tips passes, he chases the ball. I mean, he's got start-stop quickness. I mean, he gains a lot of ground on that first step, and then he's kind of able to sharpen that corner. So, I was pretty impressed with him. And again, this is one of those comparisons. I mean, and it's not just the white guy to white guy thing, but I think he's got some Ryan Kerrigan to his game, that kind of thing. I think there's that kind of vibe with that high effort, high motor. He's in the way. He's knocking balls down. He's creating turnovers. He's getting sacks. I think this is a guy that I might have him around too low on where my notes say he should.
Where do you have him?
I'm in the fourth.
Fourth. Okay.
Yeah.
One of my first thoughts all the way back in January or whatever about George Karlaftis was Kerrigan, and I was like, are they similar or are they just white? Like, I don't know
sometimes
about
I mean,
that.
like I think with I look at Drake London from USC. To me, he's like Adam Thielen. When you watch Adam Thielen play, and his ability to run all these routes, high point balls, get open. Maybe it's not always separated, but man, he makes a lot of plays. And so I kind of was like thinking that's who I was watching when I saw Drake London play.
I like that comp.
Yeah.
All right.
Makes a lot of plays.
Finished a little bit early, but I feel like that just gives us more time to answer your questions. So we'll take a slightly early break, and we'll do Twitter on the 20 right after this.
At Smoothie King, we are blending goodness to fuel your greatness. Every blend is crafted to help you achieve your health and fitness goals. Smoothie King uses only whole fruits and organic veggies. You'll never find sugary syrups or artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. And unlike some other smoothie places, there are 0 grams of added sugar in many of our blends. Smoothie King is proud to be the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys. Place your order in the app or online for pickup or delivery. Smoothie King, rule the day.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Football season is almost over, and that means tax season is here. With it comes taxiety. Filing taxes can be stressful if you choose the wrong partner. Don't let taxiety take over this tax season. Liberty Tax will help you get your largest possible refund or your money back. With more than 12,000 tax professionals nationwide, help is always around the corner. Check out Liberty Tax, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Schedule an appointment today at libertytax.com/cowboys. Liberty Tax, a brighter way to do taxes.
Hey, Cowboys fans, if you're thinking about attending a game this season, visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today. Stay at the team hotel, have dinner with a Cowboys legend, and experience AT&T Stadium's exclusive VIP Owners Club. Also, tour the Star, get autographs from your favorite players, and talk X's and O's with me, Mickey Spagnola. The official travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys will take care of all your travel needs. Visit cowboystravel.com.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Welcome back to the Draft Show. It's presented by Miller Lite. We're also presented by Liberty Tax. Don't forget to do your taxes.
Yeah,
Dang it!
Don't want you to go to jail.
I'm flying blind without my reads, but I do know Liberty Tax. Go check it out. They work with the
Do you think they're
Cowboys.
happy with us right now?
Yeah.
I'll
they're
see you
thrilled.
there at Liberty Tax.
They are-
We're coming
no.
down to the wire.
I've got an appointment tomorrow. You want to come with me?
Yes, come
Yeah.
pick me up.
I got
really-
you. I'll figure it out.
Scoop me up.
I mean,
3 o'clock tomorrow. I'll be there.
I said at the top of the show, we're coming toward the beginning of April. I need to be thinking about that for sure.
Sure.
We're too busy with draft time.
Exactly. We
What are
are,
you
Kyle,
talking
which
about?
thank you so much to Jasmine, who is producing in Chris's place today. Jasmine, this is where you do the drop.
Twitter on the 20.
Hell yeah. Fantastic. Let's get going. All right, we got one from Chris that I think is interesting more from a team building perspective than a draft perspective. But if a cornerback were to fall to you in this draft, it could be first round, second round, let's just say a high pick. Do you try to do anything with your depth chart there? Obviously, you got Anthony Brown with 1 more year on his deal. Jordan Lewis, I believe, with 2 more years on his. So I see the logic there. You could maybe have some trade bait if you wind up with a much more talented corner than expected.
I think Anthony Brown would like you to not draft a corner. Because this team, the way that they would look at it is, man, we'd really like our young Kelvin Joseph to take over a starting job anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then if I know how Stephen Jones' brain works, if they were to draft a corner, he would immediately go to overthecap.com, or I guess they have their own system of doing it.
What I'm going to right now.
Open the spreadsheet.
And he would go, we could save $5 million if we moved on from this guy. So Anthony Brown is the one number on their roster that I look at, and I'm like, if they can, they'll release you because that's where some money is.
To be fair, I don't even know if they need to draft a corner. Kelvin Joseph just needs to ball out. I mean, if Kelvin Joseph has a camp like Trayvon Diggs did last summer where you're just like, oh, my God, this guy's killing it.
But would you cut a $6 million corner if you didn't feel good about your depth? Because I don't feel good about their depth.
I would not, but they might.
I'll ask this question then.
I love having depth, but sometimes I feel like I'm
Especially
the only
at
one.
that position.
Go ahead, Brian.
McDuffie, Karlaftis, Burks.
Which of the 3?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That is a really good
Give me
question.
Karlaftis.
I'm torn between McDuffie and Karlaftis. Like Burks is great, but it's
Can I
really,
interest you in Olave then?
That's
No.
where it could be.
Okay, then.
I just-
So you're not going to take a wide receiver at all.
premium defenders are harder to find.
Okay. McDuffie or Karlaftis?
Eesh. McDuffie. I go McDuffie.
What do you think this team would do, though? Karlaftis.
Karlaftis.
100%.
I'm
Yeah.
interested to see what my guy to the right would say.
Karlaftis might be the right answer.
That's why I don't like doing top 50s, top 100s. Because then you take guys who you have graded the same, and now I have to actually stack them.
You actually have to do it. That's my next step.
This is what Brian hosting the draft show was like every day, by the way.
If I were putting together a top 50, McDuffie versus Karlaftis, I think McDuffie would be higher. So I would take McDuffie.
Let me ask you this.
Good answer.
I'm a big... Okay, wow, I'm glad I agree with y'all.
I think.
Tell me.
Come on, Mike Zimmer. Don't do this to me.
Maybe. How much time do we have before the pick?
You got 10 minutes.
There's other teams right to the podium.
In Philadelphia, only took 8 minutes to make that pick.
Karlaftis wins more because he works hard than because he's a freak, right?
Which one helps you long term?
I want the better athlete at the better position. That's
I want the better player.
But you're telling
They're
me
both premier positions.
But you're telling me is you guys really trust Armstrong?
No. See, that's what you do. That's what you do. You're always like, well, if you would take McDuffie, you must think the guys here are great. It's like, no, I just think that guy's a better player at a valuable position. It's got nothing to do with what I think of the ends.
See, and I think Karlaftis is a better player and a better fit.
But you took McDuffie?
No, you said Olave.
Okay.
I said Karlaftis either way.
There another? What about one of those guards? Okay, how about this? If you did it where you
I would take both guards.
Take
over
Karlaftis.
Both those guys.
So
both guards over both. Those guys.
So Zion Johnson or McDuffie.
Zion Johnson.
Really? Zion Johnson or Stingley.
I have Stingley graded higher, but I'm so terrified of Stingley.
I love Jeff is afraid of his own grades. Like,
no, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Like I have him in the right place.
Easy.
I know that I do because Derek Stingley plays a premier position, and there's a chance that he becomes one of the best corners in football. And I'm terrified of him.
Sure.
I think the way that he's answering
just
says that
somewhere else.
He's confident in his grades because they're so close together.
I was going to say he's not terrified of his grades. He's terrified of making the call.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, he doesn't have to do that. He's
because
on the
even
draft
making
show.
the call, I would preface it. I'd be like, "Listen, here's the thing, guys. Stingley's the right pick.
No, you're just.
But if he quits the team or gets hurt every year, don't say I didn't warn you.
You're inspiring everybody in that war room.
Okay,
with your
stack
vision
it then. Do this McDuffie, Karlaftis, and Zion Johnson. Stack them.
Zion, McDuffie, Karlaftis.
Okay.
That is, I'm impressed. I think. I guess I thought most
Zion is
people...
complete. Those other two aren't. Like I think there is, and here I should probably balance that offensive guard. I don't think you would consider a premier position. Those other two are. Yeah. But that's what makes it a hard decision. Like McDuffie is small, short arms, but his tape is incredible. Karlaftis is short arms, not a premier athlete. Didn't even have big-time production. He just has really good tape. Zion Johnson is premier athlete, premier tape. It's just he doesn't play premier position.
Yeah.
I'm safe with Zion Johnson. I might miss with Karlaftis or McDuffie. I'm not missing with Zion Johnson. I don't think.
Probably something we don't talk enough about, too. Again, is we all have our own feelings about guys, and that's great. Does Dan Quinn like Trent McDuffie? You know, like if his arms don't
probably
reach,
not.
If he can't.
As soon as they put the measuring tape down, he was like, "Get him out of
out of here."
Dan Quinn is like, if you can't pull your socks up without bending down, I don't want you. I'm not interested. So it's just something to consider.
Do you think then McDuffie would be a second-round grade on their board for that reason?
I wouldn't doubt it.
I think I would think that's a
all I got to do,
or maybe they wouldn't put him on there.
Just go out and look at the DBs that have joined the team since he got here. I don't know if he'd be a second-round grade, but I don't know if I trust that they'd draft him.
Is he even on the board
at 24?
I honestly wonder that because like teams do that. They have thresholds where it's like, guys, I know that he's a good player. We're not picking him though, so just don't put him on there.
Yeah,
and that's been one of the trickier things to. It's hard to reconcile that with fans and listeners where you're like, look, I know he's a good player. At the end of the day, it's
not for us.
It's not for them.
Right.
Not for them. I'm like, I can't make them be interested in a guy that doesn't fit what they're looking for.
No, you need to know Andrew Booth at Clemson, Kyer Elam at Florida. Those are the guys you need to know.
Yeah. I know you're trying to get to another question, but
okay.
I want to hear Brian's thought on that same kind of ranking. Do you have McDuffie over those guys like Karlaftis?
I have Karlaftis, McDuffie, and then I have Ingram. That's how I would do it. If that was Ingram.
So Ingram over Johnson.
Yeah, and right? I would do if you threw in Burks, I would put Burks, Karlaftis, McDuffie is how I'd have it.
Actually, as long as we're doing this, another question from Chris. If you ask good questions, I'll ask them both. He says, and maybe this is a reach, but just bear with me. Trevor Penning versus the two guards, Green and Zion.
Zion, Green, Penning. Now, if you want a prediction, the order they're going to go in, Penning,
the opposite.
Green, Johnson.
Penning plays the premium position.
So I'm just asking, we're good we're good with the projection that we'd play Penning at guard, or would you just go ahead and put Penning at right tackle and say we're going to figure out who's going to play left guard?
Yes. I think the second one.
Are you going to play?
This team would be like, what are you talking about? You can't take Terrence Steele off the field.
But no, that's what I'm saying.
Get out of my face with that talk.
See, to me, if you told me Penning or Terrence
I don't know
Steele,
if that's so cemented, though. I really don't. Like, I know that's
they
the
just
thought process,
threw a
and they
good
like
right
him.
tackle
Yeah,
off
did.
the roster.
They did,
cut a
but that
$10
doesn't mean that they're not
million
going to go draft a guy either. They could 100% go draft a guy at 24.
You'd still be getting worse on purpose and using a first-round pick to do it.
Trust me, I'm not in that same camp, but I'm saying they might be.
I like what you just said.
Let's go, Bangies. They threw a good right tackle off the team for Terrence Steele.
He's hurt.
I apologies, I don't remember your name, but I've been getting blown up by one of our listeners who's like, am I the only person in the world that's terrified about the swing tackle situation?
Yes.
Yeah, you don't have one.
No, the answer
We'll
is
see ball.
no, you're not alone.
You don't have one.
No, I'm just.
That just made my heart sink.
But
to them, you are. That to them, the ball's their guy.
follow me here, though. How highly are you willing to address that if you believe in Terrence Steele? You know what I mean? Like, that's why we're not done with free agency.
Third or fourth round.
They're going to bring in, exactly. And that's what I think they're going to bring another Inseki type of guy in here, if I had to guess, because it's not a big enough need that you're going to spend a premium pick on it. If you like Terrence
got all those
Steele, which
fives.
they do. Yeah, I mean,
I'm not worried about swing tackle in March. They'll do something about it.
I agree.
Okay, then would you go get a veteran guard and not worry about that spot, or does? Or
right this second, I think they should sign a veteran guard.
I think
We'd said that
to.
from the beginning.
They're going to.
I think they should sign or trade a late pick
Man,
for
we
a
have
30-something-year-old guard.
we've totally soured on McGovern, haven't we?
So
maybe not.
I was about to say,
have.
What am
this
I-
team.
How long has
am
he been in
I-
the league?
Since he
This
was
is year
in the
3 years. He was in year
19,
3,
he was
right?
in the 19 class.
Yeah.
So he's been in the league 3 years.
He's entering his contract year.
And in year 3, you got a shot at it. No, we don't believe in that.
He played center in college, and they won't even let him try here. Like,
okay,
no, I have no
This is
belief.
where my worry is. I don't know if we talked about this on Tuesday, and I know we got to get to questions. My worry is, do you have a split room now about these offensive linemen?
Yep.
Especially the guards. All of a sudden, the scouts are going, well, okay, Joe, you really didn't like our guy McGovern, who we gave a 1-2-1 grade top of the second round, and we got in the third, and you really didn't want to play him. You know, and Joe's like, well, you guys can't find me a guard.
Joe hits play.
Yeah.
He goes, no, I couldn't.
Yeah. See, so that's what I'm saying. I wonder if
Get out there on the road, my guy. Help us find a guard.
But that's what I'm saying. I wonder if the scouts are going to be on board with anybody that Joe selects or Joe wants. I wonder if they're going to try and slam holes in Joe's guy.
If they don't draft a guard in the first round and they don't sign a veteran that's a capable starter going into day 2 of the draft, will you be freaked out? Or do you think that you could get to let's say in the second round they don't pick a guard. So you don't have a left guard and you're going into the third round. You freaking out?
Here's the thing.
A little bit, probably.
Are you ready for the Cole Strange era? I like him. A little Chattanooga.
I don't feel like I have to entertain this because they're gonna sign a guard.
What a
They
jerk.
just they are. They're gonna sign a guy for like $850K, just like they did with James Washington and all these other guys.
So you don't like Penny over Green or Zion Johnson?
No, and I like Penning. I don't think Penning's tape is close to Johnson or Green. Like, they have incredible tape. Yeah. Penning is a really big, strong, violent dude.
Yeah.
That's tape is okay to pretty good. He just has great size,
and he's got a high
powerful.
ceiling.
He's a mauler,
Yeah.
right?
He plays an important possibility. Yeah.
What about Cross? You take Cross over those guys?
I would take Cross over both of those guys.
Yeah, Cross is my favorite guy, so that's a bad question for me. But I will say this, though. Are you worried about, like I say, you put Penning at right tackle and something happens to Tyron Smith, left tackle, you could just immediately just do that?
And I mean,
does that mean more to you than having a guard?
No. I want to have my best 5 that I feel good about going in.
Yeah.
I know we're going to have to do stuff during the year.
Yeah.
Because it's football.
Yeah.
Something is going to happen, but I just want to start off with the good 5.
if
they don't always agree with you.
Well, they're not always good at this.
Yeah.
I am. So if the Cowboys want to get this draft right, I'll do it for relatively cheap.
8 years of doing
There's
this,
that
right?
confidence you were looking for, Dave.
You have to keep Will, and you got to keep Chris Hall, and then I'll handle it.
You'll be the rest.
I'll value their opinions, but I'll handle it.
I just,
the right guys.
I just know that there are members of that part of the building listening to this, and Jeff's being tongue in cheek. That's all, guys.
It's all facetious.
It's facetious.
Listen, scouts don't make the picks.
True.
I believe the Cowboys have an awesome scouting staff.
Yeah.
They don't pick them.
Yeah.
So like you can get these guys right and put them in the right order and tell the coaches the right order.
So you're locking Joe Philbin out the room then?
Yeah, I don't need Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can just
Coach, if
lock
you're
him out
listening,
the
I don't
room?
need you.
I was
No.
actually all right. We're abandoning. Will
Will
the
McClay and
set.
Steven and Jerry don't need Joe Philbin either.
I was
like my
thinking about
offensive
this.
line coach doesn't need to tell me who to draft. I
Yeah.
would say no. Your job is to coach the guy I give
Did you lose faith in Joe Philbin when he got rid of Lyle Collins?
I have very little faith in any coach as an evaluator. Like, if you've proven to me that you're incredible at it, then I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
Other than that, you can tell me before I go scout.
Dan
what
I was
you
with a
want.
couple. I was with a couple that were pretty good, but I understand what
But
you're
like,
saying.
you can tell me if you're the offensive line coach. I'll be like, "What do you value? Tell me what you want."
Yeah.
And then my job, not yours, is to go find them, and I'll put them in order for you because that's my job.
I was thinking about this very thing last night, Brian. Have you ever heard of a team in the league basically doing that and saying like, "Give me your list of specs, and I'll go find the guy, and you shut up. Like, just get out of the room."
The guy, the head coach at Green Bay, he wasn't involved with the
Right.
draft.
Yeah.
They didn't. I mean, it's kind of the Packers' way of doing things. I mean, he's probably surprised that he could go on the road and evaluate people.
I get that you want
They value the coach's opinion here a lot.
I get that you want alignment between all the different parts of your team, but when you think, and this isn't Cowboys specific, this is just the league.
Yep.
Like when you think about the politics that go into this, like
Yeah.
the coach is like, I need this guy if I'm keeping my job.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what the scouting department should care about.
Yeah.
Just find me the best players. And so I think by and large, this has worked for the Cowboys.
Look what's going on in Miami right now. Mm-hmm. The two teams that were interested in the Hill deal, Jets, Miami, both general managers might be getting fired. So you all of a sudden, you're pushing everything in the middle. The last two general managers that have won the Super Bowl, both were guys that were probably going to get fired. Jason Light at Tampa, ask him about that. He's thinking, man, I've got to find something. Tom Brady falls in his lap. Les Snead, I don't know, man. They might not want me around here too much. Let's push everything in and go. I don't care about draft picks. Look what Chris Greer's doing at Miami. Chris Greer is trying to prove to you that Tua can play. His career is based on
Or that he can't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We're going to know by December.
That's
one
what I'm
way or
saying.
the other.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You'll know real quick.
If they don't do well in Miami, Chris Greer gets fired. That's somebody else's problem without draft picks and high cap and all that
Shoot,
stuff.
they still have picks.
That's why this free agency and stuff is crazy now because general managers know they're going to get fired after 3 or 4 years. It used to be these guys stayed for 10, 15 years and kind of did their jobs.
Kind of build a foundation
Yeah,
and let it roll.
these owners are like, bro, pack out,
Ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
Kind of a related topic. Stitch.
Except here, the general manager's not going anywhere.
You are
well,
correct.
one day.
Yeah. One day.
One day.
We're
all going somewhere.
I'm
Hopefully not too fast.
Not just him.
I'm out of here.
All of us. We're going somewhere.
Backing away from the microphone. Stitch wants to talk about the value of receivers.
Jeff's here for that.
Tyreek Hill.
Receivers are awesome.
Tyreek Hill was traded yesterday for a boatload of picks.
Sure.
And Will McClay actually talked to us about this in Indy, just about like NFL evaluators can count on like 5 good receivers coming out of every draft class.
Sure.
Is the position being devalued at the top in the sense that teams would rather trade these guys away than sign one?
Have you seen Tyreek Hill's contract?
Elaborate.
Yep.
Yeah, fair.
They are plenty valued. What that is, and I know this is going to bother people because there's a segment of the population that has no idea what they're talking about, that pretend that there's no salary cap and you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You think the Kansas City Chiefs wanted to move on from the best receiver in football?
No.
Think the Green Bay Packers wanted to move on from the best receiver in football?
This is the best. This is great right here.
Salary cap's real life.
It is real.
Jeff gets all crusty on us.
The Kansas City Chiefs decided, all right, we have a $45 million quarterback. We have a $20 million tight end. We can't have a $30 million receiver.
And that $45
Can't do
million quarterback gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes
Right.
along as well. So
He's right.
And so they said, crap, we have to move on from it. Now, do you have a better chance at replacing at least decent production at wide receiver than at maybe edge or left tackle or corner?
Quarterback.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
I think
the value of the incredible receiver, It's $30 million a year now.
You are right, but I do think. Yeah, I think maybe there's a growing line of thinking that's like, okay, if we've got to replace a contract, this is the one we can do. Cowboys did it with Amari as well. It's like if somebody that's making north of $18 million has to be replaced, our best bet is to find a receiver on the cheap, rather than a quarterback, rather than a defensive end, rather than.
I think it all
else.
depends on where you are. Because, like, the Dolphins, we already talked about Chris Greer, right? But also, they have a young quarterback that, honestly, the entire league has no idea if he can play. And if you had to pick a leaning, most people would probably lean towards can't. Mm-hmm. And you haven't been good for long, so you don't have a bunch of big contracts on your team, so you can. Like the Cowboys, who going into this offseason had 8 or 9 $12 million players, you can't. Let me rephrase. You can, but much like the Chiefs and Packers, the Cowboys decided the potential disaster later is not worth what we would have to do to keep this guy around. Like that's what happened with the Chiefs.
Yep.
Is they looked down the barrel of the salary cap and they said, all right, what would we have to do? And they went restructure that guy, and that guy, and then we could do it. And they go, but we don't want to be stuck with that guy, and that guy at even more money later. We want to be able to get rid of them. And they went, crap, trade Tyreek Hill. Yeah. And that's how it goes.
I hate to say it. I think he's right.
He's spot on, honestly.
He's right. Yeah, he's right.
That's how it goes.
Cap's real.
That was a very Brian Broaddus episode of Twitter on the 20 in the sense that I think we got to 3.
I'll tell you what, man.
We went all over the place.
We covered
too.
some ground and had a few sacks along the way.
We got plenty more episodes to do better. But first, we're going to take another break, and we'll be right back to finish this off.
Football season is almost over, and that means tax season is here. With it comes taxiety. Filing taxes can be stressful if you choose the wrong partner. Don't let taxiety take over this tax season. Liberty Tax will help you get your largest possible refund or your money back. With more than 12,000 tax professionals nationwide, help is always around the corner. Check out Liberty Tax, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Schedule an appointment today at libertytax.com/Cowboys. Liberty Tax, a brighter way to do taxes.
Hey, Cowboys fans, if you're thinking about attending a game this season, visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today. Stay at the team hotel, have dinner with a Cowboys legend, and experience AT&T Stadium's exclusive VIP Owners Club. Also, tour the star, get autographs from your favorite players, and talk X's and O's with me, Mickey Spagnola. The official travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys will take care of all your travel needs. Visit cowboystravel.com.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, sinking, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
This is Chad Hennings, former cowboy and proud veteran of the United States Air Force. When my fellow military veterans choose VA, they receive life-changing benefits from the Department of Veterans Affairs. If you are a veteran, you may be eligible for healthcare, education, and training benefits, a home loan guarantee, housing assistance, and more. Choose VA for the benefits you've earned. Visit choose.va.gov to learn more. That's choose.va.gov.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Final segment of the Draft Show coming at you. This was my planned first segment, but it'll work just fine in the third, which we kind of touched on this with Tyreek Hill in the last segment. But this is all of a sudden a very unique looking first round of the NFL draft in the sense that a quarter of the league doesn't have a pick.
Yeah.
This has been...
And they're okay with that.
It certainly seems that way.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the Chiefs get Miami's 29th overall pick yesterday in the Tyreek Hill trade. That makes them the 6th NFL team to have multiple picks. The Houston Texans also got an extra one for their deal for Deshaun Watson. They pick 3rd and 13th. The Giants pick 5th and 7th because of the Justin Fields trade. The New York Jets pick 4th and 10th because of the Jamal Adams trade. The Eagles have 3 picks. The Jalen Waddle trade and the Carson Wentz trade. I was about to say I can't even keep it all straight anymore. And Green Bay also has 2 ones because they traded Devontae Adams.
Yeah, one of those 2 teams, Chiefs and Packers, is going to get my Sky Moore.
You think
it's going to happen?
You really think Sky Moore is going to be a first-round pick?
I do.
I can't.
I do.
I don't think he'll be a first-round pick, but I
do.
can guarantee he'll end up in one of those spots where you look at it and you're like, man, they're good at drafting, and they did it again.
I think anybody who would be shocked by that is wrong.
I'm not shocked. I wouldn't be shocked because
Brian.
we've talked about him more than any other prospect in this class.
I tweeted the guy might end up in Kansas City yesterday. Sorry you muted me. I don't blame you, though.
I blocked you.
I don't blame you.
It's a transparent block where you can't see that I've blocked you.
I will say this, though.
If Clyde Edwards-Helaire can go in the first round, I guess Sky Moore
I think if you're Green Bay or Kansas City, Green Bay has a history of not selecting first-round receivers. 2002 was the last time they did that, and so I kind of feel like, though, that these teams at the back end, maybe they think it's going to stretch. The receivers are going to stretch. But with the multiple picks, you almost have to think, we got to get this guy around early. When you're drafting on the back end, you almost have to think around early because these players like a Sky Moore is not going to be coming back around to you in the second round. That's where Jeff, I think, is right. Would a team at let's say Seattle has a pick at 9. Would they take Sky Moore? No, they wouldn't. Mm-hmm. But if Seattle was drafting at 29 or 30, sure. That's where you almost have to think like a round earlier when you're on the back end because the level of players, everybody, that's the advantage of picking early, of course, is the better players. On the back end, you have to be a little bit more creative with who you want. And you have to think about it. And someone will say, boy, Mel Kiper, us, whatever, go, well, that was a round early on that guy. No, they don't think that player is going to get back around to him. That's why you see. And that's why Sky Moore could go very well to Green Bay, Kansas. I'll tell you the thing that's inviting about both those places, both cold weather cities, both play cold weather ball. Sky Moore playing at Western Michigan. He's used to playing in those conditions, and he's a really good football player.
Yeah, the 2 Ohio State guys did that too, though.
And that's what I'm saying. That's why Chris Olave and yeah, absolutely, Wilson. That's why you're gonna get that kind of.
I'd take Sky Moore over Chris Olave.
You can just enunciate if you want to.
I'd take Sky Moore over Chris Olave.
There you go.
And Jameson Williams.
Oh my. Okay.
Is he your wide receiver 1?
He's wide receiver 2.
Who's 1?
Garrett Wilson.
Oh. Interesting.
Can't wait.
See, that's what I'm saying. If
Sky Moore doesn't become a decent NFL player, it's going to be bad.
At least this isn't the.
Everybody has a Joey Harrington.
Ardarius Washington. Well, this isn't Ardarius Washington.
No, because he's not below the threshold.
Yeah.
Like 32 teams would pick Sky Moore.
Sure.
Probably 3 might pick Ardarius Washington.
Sky Moore is going to get picked and picked high.
Yeah. He would be a great fit for Kansas City. As accurate as that quarterback is throwing the ball and the move at all the platforms and the way the guy moves around. Yeah.
So all right, let's start in the back and move up. And it's so easy to peg those type of players for your Kansas City and for your Green Bay. That Kansas City did it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You just sort of plug a guy that you think is good into an offense that doesn't need a whole lot. Do you see that happening? Or, I could just so easily picture Green Bay drafting like a
Jameson Williams.
cornerback.
Jameson Williams can end up in Green Bay.
You think they're going to do it? You think they're going to draft the receiver?
Because they got 2 picks. They haven't.
Rodgers would probably mutiny.
They haven't done it. Yep. Like I said, they haven't done it since 2002. It's not in their DNA. But if they think that they could stretch this thing into the second round, again, what's the quality going to be picking in the back end of the second round of those wide receivers?
John Mechie and Jalen Tolbert.
Exactly. It might be Bell, Ross,
Shakir,
Dotson. Yeah. That could be their guys in the back end of that second round. And so, if they turn around and draft an offensive lineman and then turn around and draft a receiver, I wouldn't be surprised about that at all.
You could even flip-flop that, too. Sure. Maybe they use their first pick on a wide receiver, and then they go with one of those tackles, those guards that kind of fall back behind, too.
This is my favorite thing about this year's draft, and I know that this is on Cowboys.com, but the 2 best quarterbacks in football just lost their number 1 wide receivers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so another name that I would throw out potentially at the end of the first round that everybody's talking about as the second round, Pat Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers thrown to George Pickens might be 1,200 yards as a rookie.
There's no question about that.
I think that's a wonderful point that gets lost sometimes because everybody that does this as a job, like you have 32 opportunities. Every team's needs. you know what every fit is, and you have 32 chances to fit a player into a situation that you like. These guys in the rounds that matter have 2 to 4. You know, so you take your George Pickens 29th,
absolutely,
and everybody is like, what on earth? He should have been picked 45th overall. And the Chiefs are like, we don't pick again until 70.
That's exactly right. See, that's the thinking that you have to have in these drafts, especially when you're in the back end of this thing. You know, think about like, okay, everybody's going to kick us in the junk because we took this guy around early. But to us, that's the only thing you have to say. If somebody asks that question to Jerry, Stephen, or whoever, and they say, we didn't think we were going to get this player in the second round if it came back. That's just how we saw the board shaping out, and there should be no question about that. You're like, that's a sound strategy.
And here's
as long as you're not picking him over a drastically better player, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the whole window dressing your board conversation.
To their board though, it might be like Jeff said, Pickens might have a first round grade for them now. Yeah.
Because to me, that's the other thing. Is in this class, if you said, close your eyes, I'm going to give you the name of a wide receiver in this draft class, is it possible he actually ends up being the best receiver in this draft class? Starting at George Pickens and going up, my answer is yes.
Yeah.
So the other thing is that when Sky Moore or George Pickens goes in the first round, or for somebody it might be Jahan Dotson, who I don't love like that at Penn State.
Yep.
When a name goes and it's like, well, boy, I read Kuiper and I listen to Broadus and who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because we don't know.
Yeah.
And I think at least 7 guys in this class, you could make the case that 3 years down the road, is it possible that guy has the most catches, most yards, most touchdowns? Absolutely.
You could also say the same thing in who's going to be the biggest bust out of the draft class as well.
For sure.
And it's not only just with wide receiver, it's with quarterback, it's with running back, tight end, interior offensive line, offensive tackle. It's so jumbled up that I feel like more than ever before, the opinions of each of these teams is going to drive where this thing ends up going.
Yeah, I think several years ago we identified who Cooper Kupp was. I don't think any of us ever said Cooper Kupp was going to be the best receiver in the National Football League.
Definitely not.
So, but we identified who he was.
Sure.
So that's where you're at.
I promise you one thing. When this class starts making news, you're going to have heard the names. We might not have loved all of them, but you're going to know who they are.
No. It happens on Twitter all the time. Like somebody will play well in a game, and it's like, remember you guys talking about him in the draft show, and that's the most important thing to identify these people. But Jeff's right. I mean, it could be totally jumbled up.
Where does this draft kind of rank out of the ones that you've been a part of in terms of hardest to read from 1 through 32?
It's very hard because what's happening to me is I don't have surefire quarterbacks. I don't have a surefire tight end there. I have wide receiver. You're always going to. I mean, I don't have a War Daddy 1 technique or a 3 technique, and I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's usually in the tops of those rounds you have guys you can hang your hats on. I mean, I think other than like the cornerbacks with Gardner and Stingley, McDuffie, Hamilton, Hill. I mean, I don't know, man. There's a lot of questions about these defensive ends.
Yeah.
There's not one guy that you would say, bam, that's my guy right there.
I want to talk about how some of these multiple pick holders in front of the Cowboys could shape this.
Yeah.
The Giants are the obvious one if you are a Cowboy fan, just because they're in the division.
Them and the Eagles.
We can get to that too. And it's interesting. Have any of these quarterbacks done enough to, especially knowing that those two teams combined for 5 picks, has your opinion on any of them changed to the point where even hearing what both of those front offices are saying about liking Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones, that a quarterback could be a destination with one of those picks?
I think the Giants should trade down and pick one.
Yeah.
Eagles, I think, is a little bit tougher, and you might just want to go full go with Hurts and see what happens. But the Giants, I think, will be making a mistake if they – unless they're going to kind of tank it up.
I will do this.
Can't imagine them doing that after John Mara came out and was like, I'm sick of being the doormat of the league.
I'm just going to say this, and kill me if you want. The Giants should take their third-round pick, 367, third-round 67th pick, and send it to San Francisco for Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what they should do. He is a better player than Daniel Jones.
Crap in the way of cap space.
Yeah.
Just for whatever that's
should
worth.
is hard because I think from the outside looking in, what they should do is let Daniel Jones play because you're going to lose a bunch of games and then go find a quarterback. Because I don't think their team is good enough that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to make them a contender.
But you know what though, I would definitely try and help maybe you would win some games if your quarterback was an ass. And that's kind of where, I mean, you're going to, that's what happened to the previous regime with Judge. The culture there was so bad because of the losing and things, and they couldn't turn things around. You can't start off that program. And that coach understands, when he was at Buffalo, he understands how important it is to change the culture of your program. And I don't think you could be the Giants and say, oh, we're going to suck the first year and try and build. Go try and win some games if you're quarterback. And I'm not saying Garoppolo, but he might be better than some of these guys we're talking about.
I don't think you're crazy.
No.
I've gotten killed for saying this before. I don't think the Giants are that far away from being a decent team.
I also don't think they're close, though.
I
went
think
4-13 for a reason.
I think they're a good quarterback away from being in that wild card mess where everybody's like, "Oh man, all these teams are 7-5."
Is Jimmy Garoppolo worth a 77th overall pick if he goes from it was 66?
67.
67.
Third
sorry.
round.
Third round pick if they go from 4-13 to 7-10. Are they worth it? Like, because is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be the difference between a 4-13 team and 7, 8, 9 wins?
Going back to Brian's point, you got to consider the motivations here too. Though.
No, that's true.
John Mara is like the Giants.
They're tired
of
of losing.
They have the second worst record in the league over the last 6 years.
Yeah, and I don't blame them for
the
hating
ownership
losing.
of that team could be like, we need to just be in the conversation for a couple of years, and maybe that's not the smartest way to approach the draft.
Yeah.
But I don't blame them if that's what they want to do. And I think
He could be a bridge,
yeah.
to how you're figuring things out.
I don't know. It's just something to consider. Another one that I think is
Gonna play a fun game. Name the Giants' great players.
great players, few and far between, but their defense is statistically fine.
Barkley's a good player when he's healthy.
I think Kenny Galladay is a good player. He's overpaid, but you have to.
Darius
overpay
Toney
free
could be
agency.
fun for a while.
Yeah.
Right, and that's looking for the best players on their team. Like,
Yeah,
he's good. He's fun.
You could play the same game with Dallas and only come up with 2 players for a 12-5 team.
It's not a bad
Micah Parsons
point.
right off the bat.
Trayvon
Trayvon Diggs,
Diggs.
Dak Prescott.
Great.
Marcus Lawrence.
All great?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say Micah and Zach probably.
Yeah.
Zach easily.
Maybe the punter.
Brian Anger.
We'll see.
He was great last year.
He was great last year.
He definitely was.
He's got a tendency of falling.
But you don't
off
say-
I'm
after
saying if you
extensions.
stacked up the Cowboys and the Giants roster, you said
Great.
give me the 10 best players.
Easy.
I think 7 are Cowboys at least.
Yes,
Maybe
I agree
8.
with that.
No, I mean that's true.
I
But,
agree
but,
with that.
but when you use the word great,
Yeah,
That's fine. Look, I know you like to nitpick and target and try to fight people. That's fine. What I'm saying is the Giants roster is not good.
No.
And so bringing in an okay quarterback ultimately is just delaying your suck.
well, that's why you got
But
the draft.
They've been sucking already, though.
yeah,
man.
they've
That's the
sucked with
thing.
this quarterback.
You have
Like,
to embrace that. You have to love that.
They're sucking for 6
You have
straight
to
years.
embrace the
Yeah,
suck
embrace
if you
the
want
suck.
out of it.
He talked about wanting to be a general manager and fire everybody and do all this. He would be terrible at this then. The way, if you want to continue to suck, then that I have no time.
You can lie. You can, as a GM, you can lie to your owner and try to keep your job.
Yeah.
Or you can try to get the team better.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the options.
That's what I'm saying.
You
Do they
can't go
wanna-
to the owner of the Giants and say, "Look, if we trade for Jimmy, we're in this thing, baby."
No,
You
he's
would say,
better.
"Hey, instead of winning 5, we're
but
going to
you're
win 7."
losing games with Daniel Jones.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. At least Jimmy Garoppolo has proven he can win games in the National Football League.
But
That's
he
all
doesn't
I'm
move
saying.
you closer to your goal.
I think
Well, that's why you got to draft. You got the 5th pick and the 7th pick.
I'm not saying that this is the right way to think about it, but it's easy for those of us with no skin in the game to be like, yeah, just suck for 2 more years.
Of course
and
it
you're
is.
gold.
They've
Right.
sucked for
That's
the
why
last
I'm
6
doing
years.
it. Yes.
John Mara is like, we're getting mocked for trying to give free Coke away to the 40 people at our game. Like, we can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so I don't disagree with you, Brian.
Thank you.
Especially if all you have to give up is a 3rd-round pick. If you can still pick 5th and 7th, add some badasses to your roster
You pick
and put Jimmy
5,
Garoppolo
7,
on it.
and 36. Figure out a way to make your team better.
Yeah.
I don't hate that at all. Real quick, another one that I think is interesting, Houston having 2 picks there. They seem content with Davis Mills. That is a team that I think is content to kind of shoot for the top 5 next year.
I think they don't mind. Like, we get to find out, is Davis Mills potentially our guy, which would be great. And if he's not, we ain't winning nothing. And then C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young's our guy.
With that in mind, knowing that
Atlanta's going to be in that hunt too.
Atlanta might be the worst team in football.
Atlanta's going to be in that hunt.
Dude, they're going to be really bad.
They're going to be bad. I would be surprised to see Houston take a quarterback because of everything you just said. What would you do there? I think the easy thing to say is like best offensive tackle available at 3, best defender available at 13. I don't know. What would you do with those picks?
Which picks is it?
5 and 13. Or sorry, 3 and 13.
3 and 13, yeah.
Hold on, let me pull up their roster.
I would just take
real
best
quick.
player available at 3, whether it's one of the edge rushers or one of the tackles, and then go opposite of what you did at 3 at 13.
You'll have a choice between Kayvon Thibodeau, Trevon Walker, or whichever tackle you want, probably.
Yeah, for the most part.
It's a can't-lose situation, I would assume.
And then if you take an offensive player at 3, go turn around, get a badass on defense at 13 and feel really good, or vice versa.
Yeah, I think if you got to determine, like you said with Mills, I would go ahead and start with the offensive line. Yeah. Maybe double dip that thing at 3 and 13. And try and fix, because if you got to try and help him to evaluate him. So if it does work out, great. If not, you've got 2 offensive linemen in place for the next quarterback, which you're talking about with Stroud or somebody else like that.
They can use everything.
Yeah.
So I would trade down if I could find anybody to do it.
Shocking.
And then go Sauce Gardner and a guard somewhere.
Sure.
And a receiver somewhere. Houston needs to pick a lot of players.
Do you kind of get the feeling that, like, it just seems like every team needs a receiver, but every team is like, oh, this might be more drastic. I wonder what it's going to look like. How far down could we see this receiver pool get pushed? Like, what is the absolute latest you see the first receiver coming off the board?
The latest?
Yeah.
Maybe 10?
The
everybody
Jets?
pencils one to the Jets for sure.
Yeah, the Jets, I think, would be a team.
Jets are going to have a good player.
Heck,
if they pass.
How about the Giants, though? Could the Giants just say, no, we don't have enough skilled players?
I think that would be stupid.
Okay.
Which, knowing that they need help in that department.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my point, is like, I think your bang for your buck in the top 10 is so much better spent somewhere else, whether it's an offensive tackle.
That's fine. Yeah.
Edge rusher.
All 3 of those tackles could go. And the sad thing, the sad thing is the Giants have had an opportunity to draft a tackle in the top 10. They've been awful. They've been awful.
Picked the worst one when they had the shot.
When we had that draft, a couple years ago with all those guys with
Andrew
Beckham
Thomas.
and all this time, they took the one guy that nobody wanted. They made the evaluation that Thomas was the best, and they got burned. Everybody else had a great tackle, but them. So that might be a little gun shy about that.
I'm looking at this list, and I'm going down, and I'm saying the Jets could certainly pass on a wide receiver. Washington doesn't really need a wide receiver. The Vikings don't really need one. Texans, Ravens, Eagles kind of need one, but they've drafted
they'll
high.
tell you they need a receiver.
Maybe they're gun shy for the last few years.
But that's the thing, is like, you're getting to 15 or 16. I think you bring up a good point that we haven't really talked about. This wide receiver class, this run, whenever the first one's picked, they're going to go like dominoes. It's going to fly off the board. But it may not start. That run might not start until you get to 15, 16, 17.
I think the reason is everybody will see these guys differently.
Sure.
And nobody, you talk about going on a run, somebody will say, well, they're not going to take my guy. They won't take my guy because they're not in that order, I don't believe.
Do you think I'm crazy if I think that Dallas comes up on the clock and Chris Olave, Traylon Burks, Jamison Williams,
Garrett Wilson, just for fun,
are all still there? All of them are still there. Maybe not Garrett Wilson.
Did we talk about a situation? Do we talk about a situation where the 3 wide receiver thing might not have worked for this team?
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe you got to figure something else out there. That having 3 wide receivers last year, for at least for 8 weeks, was probably pretty good. But for the last, unless Kellen Moore can figure out a way to get guys open, scheme things a little bit better, then maybe that they won't use a wide receiver and make a first-round pick with a wide receiver.
Yeah, having playmakers is bad. We don't want that.
Well, no, but they've proven that they didn't really know how to use their playmakers.
No, you're not wrong.
They proved they couldn't block.
Yeah, so there you go.
Some of them couldn't stay on the field.
That's exactly what his point is. Absolutely right. They're not going to look at a wide receiver, I don't think. I really don't. I think they're going to look at offensive linemen and trying to figure this thing out.
Not at 24. The more I think about it, the less likely I think it is. But we'll see. Look, it'll be April by the time we talk to y'all again, but there's still plenty more ground to cover. We appreciate y'all joining us. That'll do it for this week of the Draft Show. For Jeff, Brian, Kyle, I'm Dave. We will talk to y'all next time.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this,